Good morning. I see that it's 8 o'clock and we've got great attendance, so we're going to go ahead and get started with the program. My name is Hunter Hill. I'm a member of the BGR Board of Directors and Chairman of the Breakfast Briefing Committee. I'm excited to welcome you to BGR's third virtual breakfast briefing of 2020. BGR is a private, nonprofit, independent research organization dedicated to inform public policymaking and the effective use of public resources for the improvement of government in the New Orleans metropolitan area. BGR's research, reports, and government monitoring are hallmarks of its public policy work in Jefferson, Orleans, and St. Tammany parishes. Breakfast briefings further BGR's mission by allowing citizens and policymakers to discuss issues that affect all of our lives. We encourage you to share this event on social media with others who may be interested. Please mention @BGRNOLA and use the hashtag BGRBriefing. As many of you know, each breakfast briefing includes the opportunity for attendees to submit questions for us to pose to our speaker. Today, we will receive your questions through the Q&A icon at the bottom center of your screen. When you click the icon, a box will appear and you may submit a question by typing it in and hitting return. We hope to see you again at future breakfast briefings, whether in person or virtual. We thank you for responding so enthusiastically to this event and for staying engaged in public policy discussions important to our community. And now, to introduce our topic this morning and then moderate the Q&A portion is Amy Glavinsky, BGR's President and CEO.
Thank you, Hunter. I'd like to first express gratitude to Iberia Bank First Horizon for so generously sponsoring BGR's Breakfast Briefing series again this year. Your support allows us to create these events and make them free to the public. We welcome everyone who has joined us today and encourage you to visit our website, bgr.org, to access our report library, which includes more than 200 public policy reports that BGR has produced over the past 25 years. And now for an introduction to today's topic. Cynthia Lee Sheng took office as Jefferson Parish President at the beginning of 2020. Following a decade of service on the Jefferson Parish Council. She entered the election well-versed in many important issues facing parish government. These include fundamental concerns of aging infrastructure and the physical deterioration of older suburban neighborhoods. They also include positioning the parish for economic development and strengthening the public transit system to support it. In addition, parish government itself has opportunities for modernization and improvement, but must pursue these within the constraints of a heavily dedicated budget. Then Council Member Lee Sheng explained her plans to address these and other topics in BGR's Fall 2019 Candidate Q&A report, which is available on BGR's website. Of course, it was impossible to predict that the parish would also face the public health and economic impacts of the current pandemic, as well as the unusually active hurricane season of 2020. How Jefferson Parish's new president would respond to these crises while making sure to advance parish government's progress and addressing other essential issues was critical for residents and businesses. Here today to help us understand her first year in office, her approach to managing the pandemic, and her future priorities is Jefferson Parish President Cynthia Lee Sheng. Following her presentation, we will then have time for questions from the audience. President Lee Sheng, the breakfast briefing floor is yours. Thank you tremendously for joining us today.
Thank you, Amy, so much for having me here and inviting me to be part of your series, and Hunter as well. Thank you so much for coordinating this event. It really is my honor to be here, and we want to thank you for what you do at BGR. You know, public policy is my background before I got into local government, and government is just so much more than the actual government employees and people like me. It really takes a very involved citizenry, and it takes think tank like yours, public policy people, helping us guide the way. So we want to really thank you for everything that you do. I know you're very involved in all our millage elections, and we will be coming to you next year on some early initiatives that I will touch on a little bit, but that certainly is a big part of some of our work right now. So we're going to have, I do have a video that I'd like to get started for you and share the screen. Can everybody see this, hopefully? So, I want to recap the year, and of course, this has been a year like no other. We just got in office. I was a new parish president, having served on the council for about 10 years. We had a brand new council with new council members. Our administration was new. We were sworn in on January 8th. And then, in Jefferson Parish on March 9th, we had the very first coronavirus case in Louisiana. So I will say that it really would probably, you have to look back and think of what you thought about coronavirus back then. Certainly it was being talked about earlier in the year. Certainly we probably believed it to be very travel related. We all had our eyes on it. We were seeing the cases come in from Seattle, but this was certainly not on our radar as we were celebrating Mardi Gras and all the carnival activities in our region, which we were very much engaged in Jefferson Parish as well. And we felt the result of that with the first surge that we had to deal with in our region that went through that time frame. Since then, we've been able to plateau 2 times. We had a second surge in the summer, and right now what we call is since the mid-November, our 3rd surge. So no question that coronavirus has taken the majority of our time and resources and energy this year. But in every phase of the reopening, we have tried in Jefferson Parish to really balance things. I always look at it as a balance between reopening our businesses. Certainly, it's a healthcare issue, a healthcare crisis, balanced by the fact that people need to be able to put food on their table and feed themselves, and businesses need to survive. So I think that is what was key, and that was our guiding principle during this coronavirus. We were able to pivot many of our resources in Jefferson Parish. Our emergency operations team was very, very busy, one of our busiest departments this year. Our librarians, we pivoted to operating the call center for testing. Our property maintenance and zoning personnel was involved in enforcement, and it's still involved in enforcement in masks, and sort of operates a hotline to go out and report to other agencies that are enforcing. Our council offices have been very, very much on the front line of this early on, with mass distribution, with food distribution, certainly with all the phases of business reopening. So they need to be applauded for their and their staffs for all their efforts during this very, very tough year. We also were engaged in many other assistance measures throughout the community. So rental assistance, utility payment assistance, we've been very involved in that, food assistance as well. And to couple that, we all know this year had very, very busy storm season for us. We were in the cone of uncertainty 8 times, 5 times it made landfall in Louisiana. We opened the EOC 5 times. One of those times we had to stay open for another hurricane coming right at us. So it's been very critical. And what we saw, and what one of the other issues we'll bring up later, is that every storm is different. And the storm that really took the most work from us was Zeta, which ended up being really an electricity event. And that affected certainly what we had to do with voting. Election day for the presidential election was a few days later. We had to quickly get resources to so many of those precincts to make sure nearly 150 precincts to make sure they had electricity for voting, as well as we had to enlist our emergency contract for sewer, because our sewer system is highly dependent on our electrical grid. And we made sure that we didn't have any overflows throughout the parish. So that is one of the issues that, again, we will be discussing with you, hopefully early part of next year, some of our initiatives on that front. As a parish president, I had to sign 20 emergency proclamations this year. So again, it was a year like no other. I feel like we've been on the defense so much of this year, but I'm very, very proud of, despite the critical nature of both COVID and the storms, I'm very proud of our teams, and I'm very proud of our leadership team here, and especially our directors, for being able to do something which I call next level. And I'm very fortunate to have a job that I love, especially I've loved my council work and all the years on the legislative side, but my true love is really on the operation side of the house. That was where I spent the younger part of my career in government at the federal level. And I feel like the operation side is where I feel public service really is very rewarding for me. So we call it next level. I've charged our directors to not just do the work that's given to them. You know, what I say in local government is we don't have any competition. Nobody's going to put us out of business. It's the only local government people have. And you can kind of rest on your laurels a little bit for that. But I expect people to challenge themselves, understand the processes that their department does, and really take it to the next level, even though nobody's going to put us out of business. But we have a limited amount of resources to use. And it's our management team's responsibility to make sure those resources are put to the best use for our citizens. So when we got into office, like I said, we've had 43 departments, and I wanted to reorganize our organization chart. I believe that the relationships you have with the people at work, the creativity that you can bring into government is about a lot of trust. It's about people who understand systems, who you can talk to, who you can get ideas from, who you can bring problems to. That is what I love about public service. And we wanted to set up our organization that way as well. So we organized the departments into meaningful work groups, I like to call it, or clusters, if you will. So they're meeting with me like that. And whether it's land use, whether it's internal services, whether it's engagement in community programs, whether it's external services, we call that like retail, the animal shelter, the transit, parks and recreation, library, Lario Center. Those don't normally go together, but when you understand the kind of work that they do, almost like a retail establishment, having to communicate with customers, having to sometimes manage cash, we put those groups together because their workflows and their processes are very similar. So this is our new organization chart, and this is how we have set up ourselves for, I say, good communication, good problem solving, and hopefully good success. So I'd like to go over some of the many things that we've done. I certainly don't want to spend this whole PowerPoint talking about COVID and the storms. I want to highlight really what wasn't able to get out to people, all the hard work we've done this year in some of our many, many departments. So transit, we talk a lot about what a regional economy looks like. We know we don't want to compete with other parishes around here. It's time for all of us to have a more global look at our area, so to speak, be able to compete against other southern cities better by us and our regional parishes working together. And I think one of the first things to talk about in a regional economy is a strong transit system. And we have a lot of transit systems that operate side by side, don't speak to one another. So the RPC has taken on the New Link study to look at how we can re-envision transit as a whole region and part of our regional economy. And they're still in the midst of finalizing their study, but we certainly know many of the issues that they're going to bring up, and we're in agreement. And where we've already pulled the trigger on many of those things. So we've already started implementing more regional connections. Even, we already have buses that stop on Canal Street in New Orleans. New Orleans buses stop in Jefferson Parish. We have later service in the evenings. We have Sunday service, and we have 7-day-a-week service. So we started that in late October. We also this year started our transit mobile app. So in July, we launched this new mobile app for real-time tracking of buses. You can get on this app, you can see the maps, you can see the schedules. You can actually find a route if you want to go from point A to point B. It'll give you that step-by-step process of what buses to take. So this is an exciting new modernization in our transit system. We also were one of the first areas to use this nanotechnology for the bus system. Obviously, when COVID hit, we were very concerned. Transit is critical for people to get to their jobs. It's the transportation they have. But we were concerned that it's such a public, obviously buses are so very public, and with COVID and the spread of it. So we purchased these nanotechnology powered self-cleaning skins, if you will, that are wrapped around all the poles. It's a new ultraviolet disinfection system that uses UVC light for cleaning. It fights the bacteria and it fights the viruses. And we're the only system in the state that is using this technology. And also with our transit system right now, we're engaged in a holiday food and toy drive. We're working with Second Harvest and CASA. We have stops throughout the parish for people to give their donations, and we're going to get it to those organizations to get out to our public. So this is something, we've never done before. It's a new way of using our bus system. And we hope that this is the start of many years to come. And this is a program that we're going to be able to grow as the years go by. Next, I want to talk about our water and sewer systems. You know, since Katrina, we have done a lot through federal government help, through so much, Corps of Engineers with our drainage systems. Our water and sewer systems are some of the other public works systems that in Jefferson Parish is aging. These systems were built in the 1950s and 1960s. And honestly, we have been, you know, of course, they were new systems at first, but since that time and now, we're really band-aiding the so to speak, and sometimes literally holes in the systems. I am not someone who wants to throw good money after bad money. I want to invest. I want to modernize. I want to give our citizens a modern water and sewer system. And this will be our focus, especially what we're meeting on now, what my team is internally meeting on now, but what we want to have some ideas of how to bring a modern system, water and sewer, to our citizens. We're engaging in an East Bank water treatment plant upgrade, and we do have funding for that. Our water department is also going through and piloting right now some automatic meter readings. We're also piloting some app-based systems so people could actually go on the app and see their water usage and understand their bill and know if they have any leaks in their house. And we've also done some other things like look at our Terrytown Bill Pay Center. Many of you may be familiar with that site. You can pay your utility bill in Terrytown, but in actuality, when we looked at it, it was actually costing us money. So by the end of the year, we're going to close down that Terrytown site. We're trying to get to cashless. I have a background in accounting, and I know all you, the CPAs understand. We like cashless environments. We know cash is risk. Cash takes a lot of resources. Cash means managing internal controls. It rarely is done very well unless you give it your full, dedication. And that's very hard in a large system as ours. So we're trying to reduce the amount of cash that we take in the parish. And so we do have a lot of, if you see down to the right corner is what the app looks like that we're doing a demonstration now, a pilot program on. So we have a lot of new initiatives we're taking both in the water and sewer program to modernize the system. One of the other things that we've been working on, and I certainly worked on for several years when I was on the council side, is our housing stock in Jefferson Parish. Our housing stock in Jefferson Parish is very old. In fact, 74% of our housing stock is over 40 years old. That's critical for us. To me, that is our competition. We have always, every parish, no matter who you are, has to be able to be able to attract new families that feed your school system, it feeds your library system, it feeds your sales tax, your property tax. And we need to stay competitive on that side. And when I first realized that, and I could drive around and see it myself, and I certainly believe those statistics, we got on top of it right away. We were able to get many, many partners. Then Councilman Ricky Templin, who was in Council District 1, now Councilman Edwards is in District 1, has been very involved in this initiative. And many other districts will start doing it. But we were able to do a first-time house in Terrytown that we just were able to cut the ribbon on in December. And the funny thing is, just 3 days after we cut the ribbon on that house, it was sold. So this is one of the things, again, that we're looking to do. It was a creative way. We in government don't build houses. That's not what we do. So it took some time, but we were able to get with the Finance Authority to do a loan program to the Home Builders Association through their nonprofit. And we were actually able to build and sell a house. And that is a model that we can look at neighborhoods where we think the contractors and the private sector go to look at flipping houses. So this is the spark that we hope to bring to neighborhoods throughout Jefferson Parish. Another initiative I was very, very involved in, and you can see the video, I'm happy to see that the video is working, is green infrastructure. This is slowing the flow. This is stopping concreting and paving over everything and putting a full reliance of rainwater that falls into our very expensive to maintain drainage system. And the video you see shows just how much, if you use the right materials, can you imagine the rainwater falling on the days that we get, 5 inches in, an hour and a half, being able to absorb water at that level. That's green infrastructure. That's a smart way to build. That's smart materials that we're using to work with water and stop working against water. This is something that's critical. This is the next level in the building trades. This is the next level of how we want to see our own government structures being built. And so we are doing another planning study on this to look at our local conditions, our soil conditions, our rainwater, our topography, and understand how that actually affects our own local regulations, which is the starting place for how commercial developments are built, with parking regulations, with paving, with concrete. The public outreach is starting now. So you can go to jeffparish.net/GI plan and look at a video and take a survey. And we would love to have your input on that front, the very important front of green infrastructure and just building a resilient Jefferson Parish. Related to that, obviously, is our drainage system. We have 71 pump stations. We are looking at upgrades. The next level for drainage looks like full automation. Right now, we have personnel that runs out and operates all of our pump stations. We have safe houses to protect them from high winds and storms and hurricane conditions. But what the next level looks like in a drainage system is full automation that can be run without the manpower on site. Right now, we have 5 that are fully automated, and we look to bring more of those on site with the next drainage capital improvement dollars that we have. This is very critical for the redundancy of operations. If one system goes down, you know, we have that redundancy in other pump stations to be able to move that water. On our streets front, this year we implemented what you call a Street Saver software program. It helps us grade our streets to see where repairs are needed. It's sort of an inventory, so to speak, of our streets. We have over 3,500 miles of lane roadway. So next year we plan to spend $500,000 doing a resurvey of all our streets and getting this inventory in line. But we have a lot of work going on. You can see right down there, we have the Severn project. That was a big project in Metairie. We repaved it for the holiday season, so Lakeside Mall wouldn't be affected, and we will re-engage that project later on next year. Our landfill certainly has been an asset that we have put a lot of resources into the last couple of years. Many of you know, and it's been covered by media, that we had many issues with our residents having odor problems. This was because leachate was forming in our landfill, which is the liquid that comes off of the garbage being produced there. Leachate produces gas that also has odor. So it's major upgrades going on in our landfill to get that water off, get the leachate off the gas system, process the gas, and actually sell our gas to the private sector in the marketplace. It's doing very, very well for us, but we will continue to do upgrades in our landfill this year to really update our gas systems and continue to do that. Information technology is one of those things where COVID, I would have to say, just accelerated where we wanted to go with many of our process systems. You know, we wanted to get more to where people did not have to, our citizens did not have to physically come into one of our office spaces anyway. That is a modern system. And so COVID kind of accelerated that, where we had to have many of our departments immediately go into a work at home mode or find a creative way to still deliver citizen services, but not do it face to face. We established remote access. Our information technology group updated over 550 computers and sent them out throughout all different departments. We also, again, talking about COVID accelerating what we already wanted to happen, we also wanted to bring Wi-Fi into our playgrounds and into our community centers. And that's something that's going on right now. We've already brought it into 6 playgrounds in all of our community centers now. So it's good to have that access and that connectivity at our playgrounds and community centers, and we'll continue that this year. The animal shelter has been extremely busy this year. They'd be busy ordinarily, but with this year and the storms, the one great thing about the people who love animals and are passionate about animals is they are quick to help other communities move animals and get them to safe places during hurricanes. And so, you know, we see these evacuations taking place more on actual airline flights, moving pets and moving animals to safe havens throughout Jefferson Parish. We also helped, our personnel went to Lake Charles in the aftermath of Hurricane Laura and helped with the animal situation there. So we're very proud of all their efforts. Again, they've been very, very busy given such a crazy storm season that we've had. Our recreation is another department that we're making a lot of changes on, a lot of new improvements. And it's really exciting because we have a strong recreational program on both the East Bank and the West Bank. One of the big projects that's coming up, this came from the state, the funding came from the state. We in Jefferson Parish will be managing this, is the John Jr. Ilario Sports Complex on the West Bank. If you look at this and the planning for this and the new construction of this site, why this is so critical for us in Jefferson Parish is if you take this site, which is a 94-acre complex, it's going to have baseball, it's going to have football, it's going to have lacrosse, it's going to have flag football for boys and girls. You couple that with the fields that we have at LaSalle Playground. Now we're in the competition for bringing national tournaments, national youth tournaments to Jefferson Parish. When you can bring a national tournament to Jefferson Parish, you can fill hotel rooms, you get more business at our retail outlets, you get more business at our restaurants. So it's certainly more than just sports that we look at this facility bringing to us, but we really feel like this is a future economic driver for our parish. Also in Jefferson Parish, we're really excited. We've done a lot of things. We've instituted a background check policy. We have so many adults willing to do so many things. Really, our playgrounds are really run by the parents that are involved at each playground to help coach the sports, to help run the snack bar, to really help organize. But we did a background check policy to make sure that everybody's checked out and has that background check if they're engaging with our youth. We have defibrillators now at all of our recreation sites. And by the end of the month, by the end of this month, all of that will be in place. And we brought a lot of new programs in sports. NOLA Gold Rugby, we have some of their players actually teaching our kids rugby. So that's really, really exciting. And we've done fishing rodeos with our seniors in Lafitte this year. We've done Adopt a Golden Age member because of our senior services that run through our recreation program could not do their services this year because of COVID. So we've done drive-by birthday parties with them. And we're starting a youth tennis program that's brand new. So lots of exciting things and really creative ways. I have to really give a lot of credit to the department, finding creative ways to engage with our youth and our seniors during this year where, that regular engagement has been difficult. Our public information and cross-cultural outreach is something that has really been a department that has really stood strong for us this year. Obviously, it was a year like no other, and obviously to get our public the latest information on COVID has been critical. They have had an unprecedented number of virtual events, live stream events. Our council was very involved. They wanted to make sure our council meetings, they handle a lot of legislation, a lot of contracts. Each council meeting could be maybe up to 200 items. They were the first council to figure out how to do a Zoom council meeting, and they were able to get that underway. Our public information also, and again, COVID helped us reach out to other communities, other cultures, and other communities that English is not their first language. We instituted a JP Noticias text alert system to our Spanish-speaking community. We added a translator widget to our website. It's really cool. You can translate our website into 100 different translations: Croatian, Greek, Japanese. Any of those, you can see that the critical information you need can immediately be translated. That was added. And we have a new cross-cultural coordinator that, if I do any types of press releases, she gets on right after me and does it in Spanish. So we're able to reach our Spanish-speaking community. So lots of good things on that front. Also this year was our census. And I took this very seriously because we know the importance of the census. We know the importance of getting an accurate count in your parish. This has to do with your representation of government at all levels. This has to do with federal funding. This has to do with state funding. COVID funding was determined on census counts. It was very critical. We had a dedicated team go out. I want to say not only did they just do the public push, but I want to thank our team from many different departments, actually going out to testing sites, going out to churches, going to grocery stores, making sure that people were able to get counted who lived in Jefferson Parish. Anybody who had reservations, we wanted to assure them that this wasn't going to be reported to any other agency. This was simply to count them, that they lived in Jefferson Parish. This year, like no other, it was so easy to get counted. You could do it online. You could do it by the mail. They had a lot of trigger points where they were sending you mail to remind you to do it. But the good thing, and I want to say Jefferson Parish self-response rate was 67.4%. The good thing about that, and kudos to our team, I'm so proud of them, that rate was actually greater than the state rate in Jefferson Parish. The people who were counted, that rate was greater than the national rate, and that rate was greater than our response rate 10 years ago. So that was just didn't come without a lot of hard work and a lot of dedication from our staff. And finally, all of our hard work has been recognized by awards that we're very proud of. The American Council of Engineering Companies grade and ranked engineering firms. You all are very involved in understanding that process and being involved in that process, but the administration grades and ranks engineering firms. So many of these firms have to get awarded contracts to do all the many public works that we do in Jefferson Parish. The council's involved in selecting those firms. So that is something that we're really proud of. The American Heart Association Workplace Achievement Award for our steps in building a culture of health in Jefferson Parish. We have nearly 3,000 employees. So we're very engaged in that process. We get the Distinguished Budget Award many years in a row. We're very happy about that for our finance department. You all have acknowledged our Department of Juvenile Services for their model agency, and we want to thank you all for that. The Forbes Award, we received that. I don't know how we got that. We don't know. We didn't put in for that in any kind of way, but that was a great award that we got for one of the best employers in the state. And we got a WEFTAC Stormwater Award for our stormwater management and innovation. And we want to always ask people to stay involved and stay updated with us. You can text JP Alert to 888-777. And we're very involved in all the social media channels, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. And then we keep our, obviously we keep our website up to date with all the latest information that we want to push out. So, okay. I'm gonna not share this anymore. And I want to thank you for that presentation. And Amy, I guess this is some question times. I'm happy and happy to answer any questions anybody has.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you for that presentation, for the insight and the context. And you're correct. In keeping with BGR tradition, we're now going to receive questions from our audience, and I will present them to you for answers. And for those of you who are attending, as a reminder, if you'd like to submit a question, you may do so by accessing the Q&A icon, the bottom center of your screen, typing your question and just hitting return. And it will then appear on my end, where I will present it to President Sheng. So we have had some questions that have started to come in as you were talking. So the first one has to do with the green infrastructure plan that you talked about. And this audience member is asking whether you are considering maintenance as part of the pilot program, and to help us understand sort of the maintenance component of green infrastructure.
Yeah, I think what we're doing is we're looking at it completely. When the planning department engages in the study, they look at what's being done in other areas, what our private industry is doing. So maintenance is something that I hear from people who work with these products, that you have to maintain it. And it's one of those things that we sometimes get excited about. We do it in big public infrastructure projects. We get excited about new things, and then we don't think about the maintenance cost that it takes later. So absolutely, that is certainly a piece of it. And that's the success of it. I mean, we have done some things. In fact, we've done some concrete paving, and we had to go back years later and look at the maintenance piece, which I'll have to say we weren't looking at step one. So absolutely, maintenance is a really big piece to that. Yes.
Thank you. Here we have an audience member asking, what is the state of regional cooperation in the metro area? How did this affect the pandemic response, and what areas, in addition to public transit, do you see as the highest priority for regional cooperation?
So I think what COVID taught us is that, pre-COVID, I would say that whatever we were doing, whether it was local government, whether it was school boards, first responders, hospital systems, everybody did what they did kind of in their own lane. There might have been projects that you had to talk to one another about, certainly, but we kind of all stayed in our own lane because we're busy doing the work that we're assigned to do. COVID kind of nixed us all together. COVID had to have a coordinated response. Many of my days, a lot of it was calling the hospitals, calling, our superintendent in the school system, calling our Sheriff LaPinto to work through COVID. And the relationships, I will say, just got stronger through this time. I was just telling someone yesterday, if we had to have this crisis happen to us during our term of office, we're only in office for 4 years. I'm kind of glad it happened to us at the beginning of our term because, nothing creates a team like a crisis. And so the fact that all of these relationships are just stronger now will help us these next few years get through. So I would say, when we look at transit, that was one of those things that we don't want a tourist or any of our citizens really to come in. Every day we go back and forth between all of our parishes. Certainly, Jefferson and Orleans has a lot of back and forth, the North Shore, St. Charles Parish, St. John Parish. Everybody, goes back and forth, whether it's to shop, to go to dine, or whether you live in one parish and work in another. And we always knew that transit didn't make sense to have to get off of one system and literally maybe walk a block and jump on another parish's system. So transit was the first thing we say that just makes sense with the regional economy. But, I've told the mayor in New Orleans, I've told the council members too, we need to bring big industry, big companies here. And if they need me at their table for a company to go and locate in New Orleans, I will happily be there to help them pitch that, because I know that benefits us in Jefferson Parish too. That I know if they bring a big company in New Orleans and it actually locates in New Orleans, that some residents are going to come live in Jefferson Parish, that the employees that they bring there are going to come shop and dine in Jefferson Parish. So that's sort of what I say is just a regional look at things, that it's time for us to not compete against one another, but start competing against the Austins and the Birminghams and, the Houstons and all of that. So it starts with transit. I think it even goes beyond that. It's the cooperation, drainage. Well, we everybody hears the term, water knows no bounds, drainage, there needs to be cooperation, and there already is on that. We have the 17th Street Canal that serves both Orleans and Jefferson Parish. I think you also see it in developments at the lake, at the river, those kind of things where we share natural assets, getting economies at the port. There's so many ways that we can stop looking at it just parish by parish and start looking at it more on a regional basis.
So one follow-up question on the topic of regional transit. We have an attendee asking, is regional transit going to include Baton Rouge at any point in time?
Right now, regional transit does not include Baton Rouge. Certainly there's discussions and, we're in those about, light rail going from Baton Rouge. But when I talk about regional transit in this, I was really exclusively talking about our bus system. But yeah, on the long range plans, I think there's a lot of discussions about, connecting the Baton Rouge area to the greater New Orleans area here. That would be a real game changer for this state. And those discussions absolutely are happening. And I was in one of those discussions pre-COVID. So I hope, that the funding is the key to that. But they've already have it mapped out. And so I hope to see that really, those discussions get further along. That would really be incredible for both of our regions.
Okay, shifting gears, we have an audience member asking what plans are in place to address the quality of public schools in Jefferson Parish, and how is the parish and parish council supporting those initiatives?
So in Jefferson Parish, and I'm not really sure how it's set up in any other parishes, but in Jefferson Parish, our school system is really separate from our local government. We have separately elected school board members. We have, and they appoint a superintendent. So I wouldn't say that we work hand in hand together. I'm certainly not involved in any policies in the education system. We support one another. Obviously with COVID, we're right there supporting one another. We're going to do programs together. But that really is a question best left to school boards. I feel like I don't have the knowledge on that front because we're different government entities. So I'm not on the forefront, but certainly the cooperation is there. Our school superintendent really reaches out to us a lot with COVID, certainly. And that's one of the things where I say, I think COVID is going to give us opportunities in the future to have more cooperation in ways that we haven't really envisioned before. So.
A related question that may actually intersect with the parish's work. We have an audience member asking, how can the parish best support expanding access to early childhood education for families?
So one of the things that we do in the parish is we do a Head Start program, and that's something that we look at, we're really proud of. One of those issues is, do we even, and we're kind of looking at it, you know, should our Head Start program, should we run the Head Start program? Should the Head Start program be run by our school system? You know, we manage the grant portion, we manage the facilities, and we're very involved in that. And so that's one of those things where it's more of a philosophical issue. Is it better education to have the educators manage it from the administrative side as well? And that is one of the things that we probably would have tackled. We're looking at it in the background. One of those issues that I would say would have been tackled this year and would have been further along had it not been for COVID. It's something that we're discussing with the council members. But, you know, you have to understand the funding. And even sometimes when people were like, well, how did the Jefferson Parish government get involved in, you know, Head Start program? But, you know, that is one of the issues that the business community is very involved in, early childhood education. We understand the importance of grabbing those kids at a young age, getting them in that classroom and having that stability and that security of a classroom environment, getting that meal, getting that breakfast, getting that lunch, because we know that it's very hard for them to catch up if they don't have that educational security at a very young age. The studies show it's very, very hard for them to catch up. And that's something certainly we're willing to get involved with. The business community is really taking this on as an issue. So hopefully you'll see some real movement on that front.
Thank you. Here's a question about the COVID-19 vaccine. And this audience member is asking, what is the parish's role in the process currently underway for the COVID-19 vaccine distribution?
Amy, I'm glad you brought that up. I wanted to talk about that, and I was hoping it was going to come up in a question. You know, I can say personally that, and I stayed up last night watching like a 40-minute video of all the people who were taking the vaccine yesterday at Ochsner. I'm told 250 people were vaccinated yesterday at Ochsner. It feels like a new day. I heard a doctor describe it as, you know, now you can see the horizon and now you can see the sunrise. And I feel like I'm getting emotional, but I've certainly felt like we were on the front end fighting this. And I will say, I've always felt like we were just chasing it. We were playing defense all the time. We were always just crossing our fingers and hoping people didn't get it, or hoping that one holiday doesn't lead to a big uptick in cases. It was just always felt out of our control. And now I feel different about it. And I feel like the vaccine is just our offense, you know, our mankind's offense on this thing. Now we have a weapon. Feels different, I will just say. And watching the nurse yesterday get vaccinated and just listening to how it was shipped and everybody received it and everybody was so excited, and to have people who had to deal with patients and actually, you know, I can only imagine nurses who had to FaceTime with patients and their families and losing that and knowing that they were the first ones vaccinated. It gives me a new energy to tackle this. So what we'll say is in Jefferson Parish is, you know, right now we know the tiers that are going to happen. The medical community is getting vaccinated first. The people on the front line in the nursing homes, CVS and Walgreens are involved in the responsibility of vaccinating people in the nursing homes. And then eventually it will come down to essential employees. Some of our employees will be essential employees to get vaccinated. And when it gets to the level where I think we call it level 3 or tier 3, where there will be mass vaccinations throughout the parish, much like the testing sites that we've run at Ilario Center, we will actually be involved in doing that with the public. So I don't know the timeline of that. I guess it depends on the supply. It depends on when other vaccinations get approved. And we know Moderna should get approved very soon. That's what everybody's anticipating. But the parish will definitely be involved in actually probably working with the National Guard, train people to actually do the vaccinations and mix it and do the vials. But, you know, certainly our site, our help with drive-through, just like we do at testing now. Our employees don't actually do the testing, but we do the drive-up lanes. We run the site. We've been doing that since March. Something I'm very proud of is that we were one of the first pilots in the federal government to get a drive-through testing site, and we've held up that site this entire time. Our emergency operations, along with the National Guard and first responders, the sheriff's office. So that's what we look at. In fact, when we did the flu vaccinations, we had a day on Saturday in October. I think we did the flu vaccinations, the state kind of said, use this as a guide when we get the coronavirus vaccine. Use this as when we want to start, doing mass vaccinations of people, use the flu vaccinations as sort of a trial run. So we're ready to do it. Again, we don't know what the timeline will look like, but we will be very, very involved in that process, and we'll certainly get out that information as soon as we get to that level.
Thank you. Here's another question that is related to the pandemic, and this audience member is asking, with the recent spike in coronavirus cases in Jefferson Parish, do you foresee a need to tighten any restrictions on residents and businesses?
So yeah, what that person said is right. We are in what we believe is the third spike. It's disappointing that we've seen this just coronavirus everywhere just kind of go up and down. We started November having about 35 cases a day. We were in a plateau. When we plateau in Jefferson Parish, it's 30 to 60 cases a day. We started November being one of the only states, Louisiana was one of only 4 states that was not rising. That changed quickly by mid-November. Mid-November, we started about having 150. Right now we're at 250. We're hoping that we don't go more with this post-Thanksgiving. We don't know what that looks like today. I'm eagerly anticipating the numbers today at midday. What we in Jefferson Parish have done, other than the mask ordinance that I did early, the state did it a few days later. We don't have, unlike New Orleans, and I think New Orleans might be one of the only parishes in the state that actually has a medical health unit as part of their local government. I don't have a doctor on staff. I don't have a medical health unit. Our medical health unit is Louisiana Department of Health. We follow them. As a matter of public policy, I feel that's where we need to be because I don't have a doctor on staff. So whatever the Louisiana Department of Health is saying that the restrictions will be, certainly we will be. If we have, we work directly with them and they work directly with the governor's office. So since that time, we have just followed whatever the state restrictions have been.
I've received a couple of questions about rental assistance. So this audience member is asking, is the parish administration seeing any increase in requests for assistance, rental assistance from residents facing difficulties paying their rent or utilities? And then I've gotten some separate questions about where could residents go if they need assistance with rent?
Right. We actually have seen an uptick in requests for rental assistance and utility assistance. We work through this through our JEFFCAP program and our community development program. People can go onto the website at jeffparish.net and look on there to get assistance. Sometimes we take applications in our community offices. So absolutely go to the website. These are grant programs that come down. A lot of care funding went into that. So there's some eligibility requirements that are needed, obviously, and there's some paperwork that needs to happen, but we want to encourage anybody for rent and utility assistance to look at the programs we have to see if they're eligible.
On the topics of infrastructure and drainage, we've got an audience member asking what financing options is your administration exploring to address the major capital needs of the water system, and also are rate increases under consideration?
Yeah, so one of those things is, when we Jefferson Parish, I think, is unique in that when we go through our budgetary process, and we just went through our budgetary process, which is a $693 million budget that the council just approved at last week's council meeting. I like to think of it as in baskets. We have millages that the voters approve. You all are very involved in, we eagerly anticipate getting a show of support from your organization when we try to do millages. But the voters approve a certain amount for whatever it is: water, sewage, drainage, the sheriff's office, the school board, any of those things. And that money is dedicated. Then we have sales tax money that's actually dedicated as well to certain needs. So money goes into certain baskets. People think that we can just kind of relook at the budgetary process and it's all a fresh slate, and it really isn't. So our budgetary process it doesn't have major departures year after year. As I've said, post-Katrina, we got a lot of money on drainage. Our water and sewer infrastructure, as I've said, is very old. This will be something that we're really taking on next year. What we've learned is our water rates are some of the lowest in the country. So that's something that we're going to be really looking at is, if we can get our water rates to be where other areas are, we'll be able to do major infrastructure changes, whether it's piping, whether it's backup generators and backup systems at our sewer, whether it's East Bank water treatment plants, modernization. If you look at your water meter at your house, it looks like it's from the 60s because it was from the 60s. So all of this takes a lot of capital. When you think of the amount of meter readers we have on the commercial side and the residential side, it's a big lift. It is a big capital improvement project. And we will have to look at, and we will be asking the council for rate increases. And that will be for us to demonstrate the need for it and what we will do. And we certainly want to meet with you all. We're working on that package right now. I actually had a meeting yesterday on it. And that is our task early next year, is to make the case for how to modernize a water and sewer system.
Thank you. Here's a question about the redevelopment of Clearview Mall. And this audience member is asking, what do you think of the mixed use redevelopment plans for Clearview Mall? And what might it mean for the future of the Veterans Commercial Corridor?
There are so many exciting things about that development. We were, Ochsner announced, probably I was there 2 weeks ago, that they're taking over the Sears site. So that's a big, there'll be an anchor on that part. What's so exciting about the development of Clearview, the development of Elmwood, the redevelopment of Elmwood as well, is that when we look at, other areas, what we don't have here in our region is available land. Certainly in Jefferson Parish, we don't have available land. We have, large tracts on the West Bank. Certainly on the East Bank, we're really built out. And how do you re-envision, next generations want different things. When we built out in Jefferson Parish, we built where at a time when, and I like to think of it as my parents' generation, where they wanted a single family home in a single family neighborhood. They wanted to get in their car and they wanted to drive further away to get to any retail. They didn't want to see a store. They wanted to drive automobile, very heavily automobile dependent. That's why you can remember the Schwegmans with the huge parking lots. That's how we developed. That's how we built. The newer generation wants a more pedestrian oriented feel. They want to be able to walk. They want to be able to live somewhere where they can go a few footsteps away and get a cup of coffee, sit outside, get on, have Wi-Fi and shop that way. You can't rebuild that when you don't have new land. You can't just redo yourself. And so what's so exciting is what we need is for major developers to give the next generation the amenities that they want to see, which is that pedestrian oriented core, which is sort of like a town center. And that's why the developments at Clearview and Elmwood are so very exciting. What we want to do with the Churchill area, that's why that's so exciting, is because it is that next generation and it is developing for the future. The Clearview will have living, it'll have dining, it'll have shopping. Now with Ochsner there, it'll be where you can go for your medical services, and not just, Ochsner seems to do, there's going to be a lot of retail things there, as well. So, and it's a very big development they're actually going to build up. So that development is huge. The fact that I think Ochsner going into Clearview gives them the capital to do the other improvements that they want to do. I was very concerned about that project in a COVID world, obviously. It's a difficult time to take on something so big, but I'm glad to see they're doing it and they're moving forward. And so that is a game changer for Jefferson. And it really is a game changer for what Jefferson Parish looks like.
Thank you. So we have an audience member asking you to speak to your newly adopted budget and your sales tax collections for 2020. And then there's the observation that Jefferson seems to have weathered the storm considerably better than some other areas. And I'd like you to just offer your observation about, first, whether you agree, and secondly, why, if so.
So this is something that we just passed and we looked at. And I want to, also mention our council here as well, because, when this thing got started, our council was very proactive in setting up probably about 12 committees to look at every aspect of how COVID would affect us, whether it was election integrity, and one of their main committees was the finance piece and the budget piece and how it affects us. So Councilmember Impastato gave a big update on looking at all the different revenue sources, and we know what got hurt and what actually was better. So surprisingly, it showed that Jefferson Parish economically was very resilient during this time. It's not the way I thought we would have ended the year if you'd have asked me this in March or April. A big portion of our revenues come from sales tax. Property tax is about 36% of our budget. Sales tax is about 24% of the budget. So that's a good chunk of the budget right there. We don't think property taxes will be affected on, we're all paying our property taxes right now, and we collect that early next year. So we don't see a big COVID effect on the property tax front. The sales tax front, I will say that, we were down sales tax probably in the months of March, April, and May. If you compare it to same month last year, we were down, the worst month was 20%. During our stay-at-home order in April, we saw it down 20%. But what we found is that, we were not as tourist dependent, and that, when travel stops and when people, don't take trips, that really hurts you very much. I think, New Orleans is certainly more tourist dependent, and we benefit from their tourism as well. But we have a lot of retail establishments. We have a lot of restaurants, and I know personally, my credit card was the same during COVID. I was still spending. Maybe I was spending it differently. Maybe I was doing more online. Maybe I was doing more to go, but my personal spending stayed the same. My credit card was just as much as it always was. My friends say the same thing. So maybe it was a shift in what you were spending. We were still spending the same amount. And so during the months of March, April, and May, we saw it really hurt our sales tax. Somewhere around June, July, and August, surprisingly, we were actually higher than last year at the same month last year when you compare it. And really, we caught up. We started, this is, tough to say. We started this year so strong. We started this year 9% over last year. January economic activity, 9% higher than last year. So with the high start, the hit that we took during March, April, May, the uptick we saw in the summer, right now, we flattened out. We are the same, despite COVID, our sales tax collections are the same as we were last year at this time, right? The same. It's possible we could even end the year higher. The sheriff even said that in one of his presentations. It's possible that we could end, he's our sales tax collector. Possible we could end the year even higher. So for whatever reason, we have a lot of the home improvement stores in Jefferson Parish. I think that was one of the industries that we were all sitting around the house. Anything having to do with home improvement, whether it's construction, in terms of rebuilding. I know our properties are going on the market and getting scooped up. I have a friend looking to buy something, can't find anything for sale. They get scooped up in the next couple of days. So it's not how I would have thought that would have happened, that real estate would have been really hot, that anything inside the house. And so I think Jefferson Parish was poised to receive that dollar, the home improvement dollar, the restaurant dollar. Many of our restaurants were able to flip to a takeout mode, drive-through mode, very, very creative ways to stay afloat.
Thank you. So we are almost out of time, but I want to maximize what's left and ask you one final question. As we look ahead to 2021, can you give us some insight into your legislative agenda or legislative priorities?
I think what I mentioned is it's going to be a focus on the public works system and the water sewer. That's going to be a big lift for us, is to try to fight to get the new financing on that front. We're going to still move forward on a lot of new and creative ways to deliver services to our people. There's more work to be done on the technology front. We, for those of you in the building trades, we are in a mode of trying to have an overall system for our code enforcement and our property maintenance and our planning system to talk to one another and not have to have 3 separate systems. So we have to streamline that process that we know we've been wanting to do. There's some data that I want to make more transparent, some data and some mapping that's going to help us attract new large industries that we're wonderful at getting it when we need to get it, but it's not really quite at our fingertips yet. So we're working on that front. So there's a lot of things brewing that we're working on. We're sort of in the introductory phases that we would have been probably a little further on had it not been for COVID and these storms, that I'm hoping next year really come to fruition. We're going to start a new series. That was something that we were supposed to start this year. We weren't doing yet, to highlight some of these new and creative things that we're doing. So we want to be really transparent with the public so they know where their taxpayer dollars is going.
All right, I'm afraid that's all the time we have today. President Sheng, thank you tremendously for joining us this morning, for providing these remarks. Thanks again to Iberia Bank, First Horizon for its generous sponsorship of this breakfast briefing, and thanks to all of you for being with us. A recording of today's breakfast briefing will be available on our website, bgr.org. The best way to stay on top of all BGR events and research is to become a member. We regularly engage with our members about our public policy work, and we value this dialogue tremendously. We also rely on members to help us amplify BGR's policy recommendations. If you're not currently a member, please visit bgr.org to join the ranks of concerned citizens working to improve local government. We hope this event has been informative. We wish you and yours the very best in the days and weeks to come. We wish you the happiest of holidays, all good things next year, and we look forward to seeing you at our next event.
Thank you so much, Amy.
Thank you.